plug in.
Or is it not even the right? Oh, it's a different thing, isn't it?
No, it's a different thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is the upstairs one. And the downstairs one is up there. Sounded.
City.
Oh yeah.
Can you just say something close to the mic for me? Because I'm not seeing my.
Something close to the mic. Something close to the mic.
It is working.
Something close to the mic.
It's weird that it's really like quiet.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only saying one or two. Oh, no, that's better.
Something close to the mic. Something close to the mic.
Yeah, it is picking you up.
Okay.
Just worried about the volume level, but
Okay.
it seems to be okay. I'm recording now.
Okay.
Just because I don't want the machine to go to sleep while we're having tea, and then I've got to start it all again.
Oh, I see.
But it means nobody must tell rude jokes or do anything.
Yeah.
On film.
And if I'm too low, tell me. Right, I'm gonna have a look upstairs.
Okay.
Well,
Brilliant. Have you
but I
got
might
everything you need?
Oh no, there's matches. That's just used to matches.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. We're here. We're ready.
Yeah, yay! So, turn this on, which is good.
Oh yeah, your little darling friend.
Yeah.
Right by you.
Ah.
Great. Well,
You feeling?
how many?
Sorry, how many come?
No problem. No.
Legs down.
Okay, I'll leave you to it.
Well, no, I'm ready.
You done?
For my middle name,
Dianita.
Dianita.
Yeah.
Susanna.
Susanna. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. How do I see it?
Oh, the grown-ups.
The grandpas? Yeah.
You sit anywhere? Yeah.
Second one is to record testimonies. You can pick the yeah, right. So, yeah.
Hello, I'm talking to you in my normal speaking voice.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we all in? Hello, everyone. My name's Dianita. I'm not usually here on a Thursday. I've got a study group. I've just realised I quite often treat the Buddhist Centre as my second home, but coming tonight is a bit of a reminder what it's like to be a newcomer, because you come into the room and I know very few people, and it's quite intense being in that foyer. So I feel a bit like I'm hoarse already. But I'm here because I was really keen to join the meditation challenge, which, as Arta Siddhi said, starts officially today, tonight. But if you never heard of the meditation challenge, or if you have, but that's not why you're here, don't worry, you're still in the right place, because the sort of meditation challenge and our meditation just runs side by side, or one is part of the other, one is contained within the other. So there'll be we'll be meditating basically, but what we'll do in this first half is probably a bit different to the other first half, because I'll be telling you a bit more about the challenge, and then we'll go into pairs and we'll talk about our meditation. So we'll do that for about 5 minutes, and when we do that, I'll give you a couple of sets of questions you can talk about to your neighbor, either about the challenge or about how you're meditating. But we'll get to that in a minute. I'm just curious, who's got a regular meditation practice? Okay, that's quite a few. And who signed up to the challenge? Oh dear. Anyway, it's but if you haven't signed up to the challenge, there's still time to do that. The good thing about signing up for it is, I mean, you go to the Buddhist center website, and I think it's in under the Buddhism tab. There is the meditation challenge. You can sign up. And the thing to do that is not because we keep tabs on you, or we sort of check results or whatever. It's more that you'll get on the mailing list, and you'll be sent a link to. We have a regular morning meditation as part of the meditation challenge. So it's online on Zoom, and you'll get sent the Zoom link. So it's a really good way to sort of, if you're not quite sure when am I going to meditate, or it's like an incentive. If the time is from 7:30 in the morning to 8:15, which doesn't work for everyone. Like I go to work that time, but I went on a Wednesday when I'm not working. But if you can do that, because I remember I used to live in a Buddhist community across the road, and we had like morning meditations in the shrine room, and it did get me out of bed. Like if you can sort of come and meditate with others, it's a good incentive to get yourself to do that. You'll also be sent the links to the teaching of the Dharma material that we'll do for the next 4 weeks, because we'll be exploring for the next 4 weeks. Arta Siddhi will start in the second half, something that's called the 4 reminders, or called the 4 mind turnings. It's like a Tibetan teaching or a Tibetan text, I think. And sometimes it's something that's good to read out before you meditate, because Arta Siddhi will tell you about them in the second half. But they're sort of, one thing I read, they're called the mind turnings, because they're sort of help to turn our mind out from the everyday world inwards, which is why they're really good help for meditation. I've written them down just to give you a taster. In short, the 4 reminders are the preciousness of human life, the impermanence and the reality of our own death, karma and suffering, and how we can practice to get out of suffering. So we'll be exploring that for the next 4 weeks as a sort of way to help us with our meditation. Yeah, just one other thing I was going to say about the meditation challenge. I think it's the word challenge, because I know that I don't respond well to the word challenge. Like, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I was really keen to come to this, because for me, the practicing together was a real incentive. That I'll come to the center, there'll be loads of other people who sort of doing the same thing, and we're all trying to work on our meditation, and we come together and we talk about it, and maybe we see each other online. So for me, that's a real incentive to practice. And I've got a friend who's he's the total opposite. If you say challenge to him, he's like, right, bring it on. So I think it's finding the balance between, if you want to set an aspiration for practice, joining the challenge, whether sort of officially or just in your own time. It's that sort of focus of practice, of sticking. Because the challenge, I haven't said, the challenge is to set up a regular meditation practice and to meditate once a day, whatever that practice is, or however long you want to do that. It could be meditating for 10 minutes a day. It could be meditating for half an hour. If you meditate for 20 minutes, maybe you want to extend it a little bit, meditate for half an hour. If you haven't got a practice, maybe just spend 5 minutes each day consciously taking time out and sort of finding a still moment. I think Arthur City was talking about actually who's a regular meditator, just doing other practices that support his meditation, that sort of make him meditate better. And as part of that is to come to the center once a week on a Thursday, like tonight, so we can sort of check in with each other and learn about the 4 reminders. So that is the challenge. And do, if you want to, sign up. And I will also, because I've signed up and I didn't get an email, so I was going to check with the center to make sure they send the Zoom link out to everyone. So we sort of feel we can we can do this together. I think what we'll do, if you want to go into pairs and talk about if you're on the challenge or if you want to join the challenge, you could check in with your neighbor what you're intending to do for the next 4 weeks. What is the challenge? What is the task? What's the aspiration? You're going to set yourself as part of this. If you're totally not on the challenge, you can just talk about what, your meditation, what you're doing, why you've come tonight. And for both things, what you're hoping to get out of it, either the challenge or just meditation. So I think find your neighbour. You can give me a shout if you're. I think I need a set of cymbals of like, because it's so loud. I hope you had enough time to talk about things. Does anybody want to, I don't know, does anybody want to feedback of what you said, or maybe what challenge you've set yourself, if you're happy to just throw it in the room? Don't be shy, so we don't hold you to it, we won't check. Or has anybody got any questions as well? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a regular meditator, but what I want to do is I get up early in the morning and meditate in the morning, and if I miss that morning slot, it's hard to then meditate later. So the challenge for myself is to meditate every day, even if I miss that morning slot, to kind of meditate later in the day.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Damien.
Another thing that might be useful for people who are beginners is even if you only do like a 1 minute meditation, like the breathing space exercise, that's already a really good routine to establish. People always think they've got to set aside a big chunk of time and so on, but you don't. I mean, just a little 1 or 2 minutes is a good way to train your brain to be happy.
Definitely. Thanks, Maria.
We're just saying, how easy it is to for life to just fill things up. It's just your schedule just gets filled up, and how important it is to guard some time for you, which just then has a sort of a massive effect on your quality of interactions, just stress levels, and then everything. And I think that word guarding time for yourself just made me think of the cover page of the book Living with Meta, the mother elephant guarding.
Oh, yeah.
As if it was guarding the baby elephant, sort of, that important. So just reminding myself that, I've got to do this.
Thank you. Yeah. Great. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I think the reminder, I think what you said, Damien, of, when you miss the morning meditation, just, make sure you meditate or do something at some other time of the day, and, meditate however long it is a good chunk. I think it's sort of setting up the habit of doing it every day is what we're sort of trying to do in the challenge. And one word I always really like when I think about meditation, I think you said, guarding your time. For me, it's playfulness. It's not freaking out if one thing that I've set myself to do doesn't work. It's sort of trying out something else, just to see what sort of fits our sort of our being in a way. And also, I think to stress that the morning meditation, which is from 7:30 to 8:15, I don't think you have to be there for the 45 minutes. If that's not your thing, it's good to come at the beginning if you can. And again, check in and just, stay there as long as you like, or as short as you like.
Question over there, Diane.
Oh, yeah.
By any chance, is it recorded in the morning so you could do it later in the day?
I don't think it is.
No.
Yeah, I think it's just a sort of you come and yeah, you do it. Any other questions about any of it before we actually do some meditation?
I think I'll be okay with the challenge. Actually, the challenge for me is to get up in the morning for a start and meditate. Like you said, like if for some reason I've been training myself in preparation to get out of bed. I find it quite difficult. So I've been training myself for the last few days to try and wake up and get up earlier, and so that's actually going to be my challenge.
Right.
And if I fail there, then I'll do it at lunchtime or in the evening or something like that. But it's the waking up in the morning challenge for me.
I totally get that. It's a funny time of year. It's a sort of New Year, so we really want to do something new, and it's very hard to get out of bed.
Yes, I've already sort of set up like a little altar and little tea lights, and got some nang champa and nice incense, and to make it all a bit, Yeah,
that's good. That is good because No, actually, I'm glad you say that, because setting yourself up some conditions is a good way to also help you meditate. You sort of think it's not about the tools, but sometimes it's nice to have a nice place where you're going to sit and have a sort of setup. And if you want, make yourself a little shrine or something, or a candle, or a nice picture, or a nice view to look at. It's those sort of
And what you're saying about setting a time, you know, saying that you're going to do it in the morning at a particular time, I think really helps me, although I find my schedule changes day to day. So I find that sort of setting aside a particular time each day a real challenge. But I think there is, I don't know if it's possible for this period. I think that would make a big difference for me.
absolutely. I think anything that helps setting up a habit, a sort of place and a time. Shall we do some meditation? We've got 15 minutes to have a sit. We'll do the mindfulness of breathing. And I'll remind you of the stages at the beginning of each stage, but I won't say very much apart from that. But I think let's just, set ourselves up in a meditation posture. If you want to settle down on your cushion or on your chair, maybe taking a couple of deeper in-breaths, breathing in and breathing out. And with each out-breath, just letting go a little bit. Letting go maybe some of the tension of coming here, of talking, of starting something new. Of the anticipation of what's going to happen. For the next 15 minutes, all we need to do is sit here and breathe. So breathing in and breathing out and letting go. Maybe you can feel the gravity of your body dropping onto the cushion or the chair and dropping down onto the earth, which is supporting us. Taking our space. And finding a still point in the storm. And being supported by the solidity and the vastness of the earth in our meditation. The mindfulness of breathing. And in the first stage, breathing in and breathing out and counting at the end of our out-breath. Counting up to 10 and then starting again. And in the second stage, gently placing each count at the beginning of your in-breath. In the third stage, dropping the counting and simply observing your breath. Keeping it open and playful. If you get lost in this stage, or if your mind wanders, see if you can bring it slowly back to your body and to your breath. And maybe feel that weight dropping with each out-breath. And in the last stage, bringing the focus back to your breath or any part in your body where you can feel your breath. Maybe in your nostrils when you're breathing in, or in the rise and fall of your belly when you're drawing your breath in and out. What is that physical sensation of the breath in our body? And can it keep us grounded in the here and now? That was the first half. So we've got the tea break now. I'm not entirely sure if I've shortchanged us by 5 minutes, but anyway, we've got a tea break now, and then we'll come back for the second half where Arta Siddhi will introduce us to the first of the 4 reminders.
Stop for the halfway point. It's nice. It's good. 15 minutes too short. That's more like.
You're on the tablet.
Not exactly.
Yes. Yeah. You only need to watch the second half.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like you leave it's actually like you're more confident. And your mind yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's not a lot of process. There's a lot of process. Yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Either the first or the last.
You're the first.
Yeah, the other last time I was last. Like really last.
Damien, do you mind just lighting the candles? Matches the other side. Thanks.
And I'd quite want to join it, certainly 30 tomorrow.
I didn't click on it though, to be honest.
I just want the link. It's the link the same every day.
It's the same every day.
Okay, well, someone should have it.
Maybe
I can still do it. Thanks.
Dianita, would you just mind just checking if there's anyone else to come? Thanks.
There
was a queue for the loo downstairs. Ah. How long was the queue?
I think there were 2 people in and 2 people outside.
Okay. Is everybody okay temperature-wise? Yeah, great. Great. Brilliant. So we might have a few more come up from the loo, but we'll manage that when it happens. Yeah. So if I've not met any of you before, my name's Arta Siddy. I'm just one of the team here. There's a team of us, of which Dianita has just joined us for the duration of the challenge. Hi, Charlie. Cushion or Matt? Okay. Have you just come up from the loo? Yeah. Sorry to broadcast that. I was just wondering if there's more people to come. No. Okay. There we are. Great. Great. Okay, so we're going to be exploring a traditional Buddhist teaching, which I think can be really, really helpful for this project of developing a regular meditation practice. That's sometimes called the 4 reminders, as Dianita was saying, or the 4 mind turnings. Really what they're about is if we turn our mind to these things, then we will want to, as it's traditionally put, practice the Dharma, which is the Buddhist way of talking about kind of working on your mind, growing, basically. So that's really interesting, isn't it? And very important for developing a regular meditation practice, that it's very easy to think, well, I want to do it, so that's you know, we can take that for granted. And then you find you get on the cushion, you kind of don't want to be there. The next day you don't want to be there. You think, you know, who decided to do this? And you can easily think, oh, I don't want to do it then because I'm not enjoying this. Clearly, I don't want to do it. But this teaching is saying, no, actually, that's not the case. Actually, kind of wanting to do it arises in dependence on conditions. It arises in dependence on conditions. So the fact that we don't want to do it today doesn't mean necessarily that you're not into meditation. Do you see what I mean? We don't need to kind of jump to that generalization and that conclusion from that experience. No, actually, the desire to meditate arises in dependence upon certain conditions. Whenever you make a profound point, the Tibetan. Yeah, so in a way, the art of developing a regular practice is actually wanting to want to. It's wanting to want to. If we want to, then we can set up the conditions that will lead to wanting to. Do you see what I mean? So don't worry if you don't want to do it, if you see what I mean. During this, don't overly kind of ruminate on, oh God, I didn't want to do it this morning. Maybe I'm not into this actually after all. Don't worry, it's sort of a waste of energy. It's hard enough setting up a regular routine in anything. So instead, this teaching helps us, if we want to, we can apply this teaching, and that means we can actually cultivate the conditions that give rise to actually wanting to meditate. Because if you want to meditate, it's actually pretty easy. Like my mind, on a good day, my mind, as I'm walking towards my meditation, or even before that, my mind sort of wants to meditate. Isn't that brilliant? It's almost like more effort to walk in the other direction and not do it. That's sort of what you want to have, but it's just that arises in dependence upon conditions, and one of the conditions is regularity. You know, if we develop regularity, that you develop a habit, don't you? And then the impulse kind of arises. But actually, this traditional teaching is quite deep. Right on cue. So yeah, the first reminder, the first mind turning is the preciousness of human life, is that we turn our minds towards the preciousness of human life. So this needs a little bit of explaining, because it comes from the Buddhist tradition, which teaches rebirth. So within it's sort of seeing basically human life is seen as a rare and precious thing. To be reborn as a human being is seen as a rare and precious thing. It's a bit of an odd idea for us, but I think that the point about this is it both can be taken literally and it can be taken metaphorically. So the teaching goes that actually the human realm, human life, has a sort of central position, because there are another realm is the God realm, God with a small g, not the creator God, actually slightly a object of ridicule, a slight ridicule in the Buddhist tradition, because in the God realms you experience pretty much constant pleasure. Woohoo! Great, let's go there. Which is actually said to be not particularly spiritually helpful. It's a bit of a cul-de-sac. because you're so blissed out that you don't, you're not bothered with practicing. You're not bothered with meditating. Do you see what I mean? And the time spans, the lifespans are so long that you can completely lose track of any sense of impermanence. So that's the God realm. And then the kind of the hungry ghosts, or the hell realms, where are the opposite. Sort of a lot of unpleasantness, pain, or predominance of those things. And that's not very helpful spiritually either, because we're just overwhelmed by our painful experience. We can't find a way to get to grips with our minds. Yeah, but the human realm has a balance, a rough balance of pleasure and pain, and that is said to be really, really helpful in terms of this project of wanting to grow, wanting to actually work on our mind. So that's really interesting, isn't it? You don't need to believe in rebirth to start to get sense of the truth behind that. And at the same time, it's not an easy thing for us to even sometimes notice. You know, when there is a balance, well, basically we want we want total pleasure. Who wouldn't? We're sort of wired up for that. But if you've ever noticed when you are in a awkward situation, for an obvious example actually is people, not infrequently, with the metta bhavana. When you're learning the metta bhavana, you have someone in your life who's really difficult. You can't, you know, get away from them. Perhaps they're in your family or something, but you're finding them really difficult. It can be those moments, very challenging. You wouldn't wish them on anyone, but it can be in those moments that you really start to get the power of the practice. It gives you a kind of focus in the practice that when everybody's nice, you don't have, and you can start to really see, oh my goodness, I can actually take responsibility for my emotional states and my responses, and that transforms this relationship. You start to see that. So you discover something much, much more valuable than merely getting rid of an unpleasant situation. You discover that you can actually take ownership of your mind, and you can actually grow, and that experience itself is fulfilling. Yeah, so that's what's being got at with this. That's sort of the human realm in the Buddhist schema is characterized by growth and development. As I said, practicing the Dharma. The Dharma is the sort of Buddhist word for that, reaching all the way up to complete human fulfillment in enlightenment. But the point is that is what a truly human state is, to be aware, self-aware, that we can not only produce and consume, but we can grow. We can grow. So that is more likely to arise in a human state where there is this balance of pleasure and pain. Something to just consider there in your own experience. Is that true? Because obviously when something's uncomfortable, we just naturally assume this is disagreeable, let's get beyond this. We don't always notice that, aha, look, actually I'm more alive, I'm more fully human in this state. So that's the invitation. So yeah, what we naturally do is we slide off this. We slide off this project of growing. It's a bit more work to kind of stick with. Actually, our minds naturally slide off it. Even when we're meditating, we kind of lose touch with it. Just little examples are, it's very easy to get kind of problem orientated. It's sort of part of the way our minds are sort of wired. We're sort of wired to really notice threat and problems, difficulty. So it's very easy in our meditation to actually slide off, really being fully aware that here we're trying to grow, and slide off into sort of sorting ourselves out, sort of slightly problematizing our experience. You see what I mean? So in a way, that's a kind of, you might sort of feel like you're in touch with your growth, but maybe you sort of just subtly sort of slid off. Another way we can slide off is that we kind of, without really realizing it, we basically are just trying to sort of hammer out our opinions of the world, whatever's going on in the world. We're trying to sort of just hammer out a kind of coherent set of opinions as to how to approach life, and the problem in Palestine and all that sort of stuff. And we're subtly just trying to step into this comfortable place where we've kind of got life sorted. It sort of feels like we're reflecting on life. It feels like we're sort of in touch with growth, maybe, but actually we're subtly slipped off that. We subtly sort of lost touch with that, and we're just trying to sort of get into that position where we kind of know what's going on. We've got life, kind of sussed, as it were. So just little examples of how we sort of slide off, we subtly sort of lose touch with this precious kind of heart of what it is to be human, to grow. So yeah, you would think, wouldn't you, that what's precious by its nature would always be in our minds. If it's really precious, then it would always be in our minds. It would naturally, we wouldn't have to work at it, but that doesn't seem to be true. Yeah. So that's what this reminder is kind of getting at. We actually need to turn our mind towards the value of life, the preciousness of life. We sort of, at times, we're really in touch with it, aren't we? And at other times, we just sort of subtly slip off it, slip away from an awareness of that. And yeah, so actually kind of wanting to meditate is a matter of conditions. It arises in dependence upon these conditions. So just to say a little bit more about that you probably know this, but the psychologists have been discovering more and more just how our minds, the sort of evolution of our minds, and our minds are very much wired up for threat and for pleasure or kind of new opportunity. We don't have to do anything for those to be the kind of concern of our minds. Yeah, we just sort of threat, that person at work, and then we're thinking about it. You don't have to try to do that. You don't have to put effort in. So all the time, every day, our mind is by its habits, by its nature, by its mechanics, if you like, is naturally being led towards those, in those two directions. And so if you think about it, if our minds are like that, despite the fact that we live in very, very fortunate conditions, don't we? We know that. You just need to look on the news to see that. Incredibly fortunate in this small part of the world, amazingly stable society. We're not in a war zone. We've got kind of largely sort of law and order. People are kind of largely sort of trustworthy at a very basic level, that most people follow laws and all that sort of stuff. Very, very fortunate. It's just that because our minds are constantly moving towards threat, or pleasure, new opportunity, we take that for granted. Can you see how if your mind is wired to do that, you just, anything that's kind of routine and background, you just end up, unless you do something about it, you just end up taking it for granted. You know, how many times today did anyone think, gosh, I'm really fortunate to be living in this part of the world? I don't think you know, unless I actually actively try and do it, I very, very rarely think that. Yeah. So our mind, we need to be aware of the minds that we've got to realize that we need to do something to want to meditate. Yeah. So this thing of kind of taking things for granted, therefore, is quite an issue. I'd say, in a way, I propose it's not a moral issue. It's deeper than that. It's a spiritual issue. It's a spiritual issue, in the sense that Cicero, he says, gratitude, that's the sort of opposite, taking it for granted, isn't it? Really appreciating the conditions that we're in. The opportunity to be actually be able to meditate and grow is, you know, is rare, actually. So actually having that sense of kind of gratitude, he says gratitude is not only the greatest virtue, but it is the parent of all the rest. So it's in that sense that I think it's a spiritual issue. Our natural tendency to ingratitude, it's a spiritual issue. I mean spiritual in the sense that Cicero means it, that actually all our other virtues aren't looked after. They grow out of, if we're in touch with this sense that sense of gratitude for the precious opportunity that we've got. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, so I'm not, you know, don't feel I'm saying, you know, you should be grateful, you know, in that sort of moralistic kind of way. I'm not bothered about that, actually. We are ungrateful, we're built that way. But why is it an issue? It's not an issue morally, I don't think, really. I think it's deeper than that. It's a spiritual issue that actually our minds will just go off in directions of threat and pleasure or new opportunities, unless we've really got a sense of how fortunate we are to be able to grow. Yeah. So what I'm going to suggest we do this week, if you're on the challenge, if you're not on the challenge, you might want to do this, actually is keep a gratitude diary. Keep a gratitude diary, which is just a very, very simple thing that at the end of the day or whenever it is, you can just write down 5 things that you're grateful for at the moment, yeah, from this day, which is just a way of starting to kind of sort of turn our minds in this direction, yeah, turn our thoughts in this direction. If we do that every day, it just has this very subtle but significant, it can have this subtle but significant effect that we start to attune to how fortunate we are. And I've been doing this, and I'm familiar with doing it. I'm used to doing it at times, but I often don't write it down. This time I decided to write it down, and then I hit resistance. I don't want to write this down. Using up paper, and I come from Yorkshire, so I'm very concerned about kind of, you know, using anything up. But I just sort of stuck with it. Often this is the way I learn, actually. I kind of hit resistance, and then you know, what is this about? And what it was about was actually that in a way I wasn't really doing a sort of gratitude journal. I was sort of just noticing what it is that I appreciate, enjoy through the day, and just reflecting on that. But I think this aspect of preciousness, this word preciousness, can deepen that practice from merely sort of reflecting on the good things that we've got in our life, which is a good thing to do. But it can deepen it into gratitude, because the word precious, it contains both a sense of value and a sense of fragility, doesn't it? And I think, well, what I found is that is important. That sense of fragility is important. That actually, the way it's put in Buddhism is gratitude is a recognition of benefits received. Not just a recognition of benefits, but a recognition of benefits received, i.e. you might not have been fortunate to receive that. Do you see what I mean? Very easily, we can just sort of, I remember my brother saying this, he likes getting given presents at Christmas, but he's noticed he doesn't feel grateful for them. I thought, that's great, isn't it? That he'd sort of seen that. We can do a show of gratitude, but we actually sort of recognize, no, I might not have been given this, actually. This is precious. Do we see that about our human life? Very easy to be aware of the flaws of your parenting that you received. But do we see the kind of preciousness, actually, of what we've been given? Apparently, we need, in order for our brains to grow, we need just a level of human contact and interaction. Yes, our parents might have been different in this way or different in that way, but without that, our brains wouldn't have matured and developed at all. So that might not have happened. For some people, that didn't happen. Are we aware that we've been given that? Do you see what I mean? As soon as you realize I've been given this, you realize this is precious in that sense of fragile. It might not have happened. I was down at the Van Gogh exhibition yesterday, and I was just trying to keep the sense of awareness of that Van Gogh wrote extraordinary paintings. I was really affected by seeing them. But actually, he did die early, didn't he? He might have died earlier. It's not, we sort of, with this kind of natural tendency to take things for granted, we feel like life as we've received it was inevitable. History was inevitable. The fact that we have the conditions for a real human life, the chance to really grow and change, you know, we sort of, when we take them for granted, it's as though it was inevitable, and it wasn't. So what I was noticing in my practice is tuning in to this aspect of fragility that's there in the word preciousness, can actually deepen mere sort of appreciating the good things in our life into gratitude. And I think it's that gives us a sense of, oh gosh, this is precious. This is precious. Human life, truly human life, is kind of precious. And it's that sense of preciousness, implicit, that it might not always be there, it might not have been there, that gives us this sense of actually kind of wanting to make the most of it. Yeah, see what I mean? So that's the first reminder, and we'll talk a little bit about gratitude diaries in a moment. But let's meditate for a bit, because what I thought we could do in the meditation is just actually really tune in to this experience that life, this experience, this moment of life, is precious, is valuable, and is not to be taken for granted. Yeah, our health, our mental health, is not a given, but we've got it now. So we'll just do a short set, and we'll keep it really simple. To appreciate this, to feel that moment of being alive, it needs to be an experience, not a thought. So we'll start by really getting closer to our actual experience. Very easy in the mindfulness of breathing to do the mindfulness of an idea of the breath. But let's get closer to the actual experience. The breath doesn't exist apart from bodily sensations. Yeah, so let's get closer to those sensations. And then we're going to bring in the counting. I know the counting's a thing. So in the second stage, we'll just do one stage of counting, and then we'll move into the what we usually call the third stage, drop the counting completely. So just encourage you with the counting. Let's see if we can, I'll just say 3 things I think it is about the counting. So let's just count up to 4. Let's just count up to 4. Let's keep it really, really simple. Let's not bother with up to 10. This is what I usually do, actually. And let's make the counting background. It's right in the background of our attention. The foreground of our attention is this direct experience of the breath. Yeah. And so we're only going to count if we experience if we feel the breath for the whole of the in-breath, the whole of the out-breath. Yeah. If you don't count. Don't count. Just go back and start again. Do you see what I mean? So that's what the focus is. It's actually the actual experience of the breath. Yeah. Very easy for the counting to become foreground and the breath is kind of background. We're hardly attending to the breath at all. Yeah. And I just say one more thing about the counting. Give yourself the opportunity to drop the counting. It's really important that the counting serves the experience of awareness of the breath. Give yourself the opportunity to drop the counting, but in that stage, just take up the practice of coming back to it. Yeah, take it up again when it might be useful. Yeah, and we're only counting just to see, am I actually attending to the actual direct experience of the breath? Yeah. If you're not doing that, well done for noticing it. That's really good. And don't count. Yeah, just go back to the beginning. Great. And then in the last stage, we'll just see if we can really tune into this direct experience of being alive. Let's see if we can just sort of feel the preciousness of it. Yeah. The extraordinariness of actually being able to be aware of being aware. Great. Okay. Well, let's give that a go. So I'll give you reminders of that. So when you're ready, closing your eyes. And just feeling that direct experience of the body. I know we sort of know it's there. That's not the same thing as actually feeling it. So feeling how your belly feels. And open to learning more about how your belly feels. And your chest, how does your chest actually feel? And then feeling your shoulders and shoulder blades. And your back. Whatever is actually there by way of sensation. Just tuning into how it actually is. And notice how when you do this, more and more starts to reveal itself in your experience. More of the richness of it. And then how about your throat? Just feeling what's going on there. And your neck. And so starting to notice how the sensations of breathing can sort of anchor you in that bodily, directly felt experience. So that is the foreground of our attention. You might even start to tune into the precious nature of this experience of being aware. Not just sense experience, but being aware of being aware. This human experience. And then let's just play with the counting. Let's see if the counting can help us deepen our experience of the breath. So just counting up to 4, and only counting if you attend to the whole of this in-breath, the whole of the out-breath. If not, don't bother with the numbers. And just start again, the whole of this in-breath, the whole of this out-breath. Am I feeling it? If so, count 1. So we can get the numbers to help us, serve us. And keeping them very much in the background of our attention. And if you feel you need to drop the numbers, just drop them, but don't give them up completely. Bring them back in when you've re-established direct feeling the breath. So now dropping the counting completely, if that's helpful, and seeing if you can just tune in to the precious nature of this momentary experience of human life. So using the breath to anchor you in the direct experience of this human life. We're not thinking about it, we're experiencing it. And as we come towards the end of the practice, just dropping any effort you're making and just sitting, letting the practice transform you. Great, so apologies folks, I spoke slightly longer than I was I was planning I wanted us to get a bit more time meditating, but I also just want to get a chance just to see how you got on with that, and then start to talk about gratitude diaries before we finish. Is there anything to share from that? Hi, Rohan. Yeah.
I found it really helpful to focus on body experience rather than just counting the numbers.
Mm.
I mean, it's a lot richer, first of all. I think it's easy. I find it very easy to get distracted and just because you can be thinking about a lot of things and still be counting your breath.
Yeah.
You can be thinking about a lot of things and really be focusing on what it feels like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's really good learning, Rohan. Yeah, really important. It's so easy to do, isn't it? To think, oh great, I'm doing well, I'm counted up to 10, but you're also doing your shopping and planning what you're going to say to them. Yeah, and as you say, it's richer, isn't it? Experience is richer. Yeah, and did that take you towards kind of this sense that life is precious? Yeah, it did. Yeah. So it's really interesting, isn't it? You can think, oh God, the mindfulness of breathing is about kind of you breathe in, breath out. Done that before loads of times. Count, sort of set of instructions. But actually, no, the experience of experiencing is the experience of experiencing human life. Consciousness, the miracle of it. That's what we can kind of tune in to. It might be that you just experience that a few breaths. You're so distracted, that you kind of just get a few breaths. That will be valuable. Yeah. Great. Anything? Perhaps one or two more.
I never really understood the point of counting.
Yeah. It's a thing, isn't it? Yeah. I know. I've only just started to get it myself after 27 years of meditating. So stick at it. Yeah. It's I think one of the key things is about getting getting it in the right place. All too easily, it can seem like the counting's in charge. What I need to do is this. I don't quite know why, but I need to keep counting the breaths. It becomes a sort of end in itself, doesn't it? So I think it's really important to see what are we trying to do with the counting, and make it serve you. So you choose, rather than feel like you have to do the counting. But I think it's good to come back to it. Otherwise, you don't learn the value of it, and it is really valuable, the counting. What the counting does is it gives us feedback. So very easy to not notice, did I actually attend to that breath or not? In our minds, or to be off for 2 minutes without even realizing it. And you're like, oh, you suddenly come to, where was I? Well, the counting is just giving us a way to verify during that breath, was I actually there? And that's the sort of feedback we need. We need quite immediate feedback if you're actually going to get interested in the breath. If you don't have that immediate feedback, you'll be off for whole chunks of your 20-minute meditation and not really know where you were or how to get back. I was sometimes just getting up to 1. For me, I don't feel at all discouraged by that, because I'm actually with my experience, and I know that that's valuable, and I'm getting direct feedback about when I'm going off. See what I mean? So I think what you definitely don't want to do is keep counting whilst you're thinking. If you find yourself in that position, just go back to naught. Otherwise the counting is a complete waste of time. In fact, it's just more thinking. So the counting is there to help us notice, aha, I wasn't actually feeling the breath that time. If you've done that, the counting served its purpose. That's really, really good. It's this thing that we're saying on the retreat, Camilla, wasn't it? That actually that is mindfulness, seeing, oh, I wasn't actually attending to my breath there. That is mindfulness. That is a success. It's not a failure. Do you see what I mean? So I think we need to sort of recalibrate a bit. Yeah, what we're really trying to do, and therefore what success is. But yeah, it's there for feedback. Yeah. Hi, Simon.
I find it interesting that we're talking about the role of the counting now, because I think one thing that the counting for me does, it effectively depends a lot on the situation I'm coming from. I'm coming from a busy day of work and sitting down. I find it really helpful.
Yeah.
In the morning of the second sit in a multiple sit kind of situation, I don't find it that helpful.
Right.
I think what it does for me, the counting, is it's a verbal thing in a sense, and it's an articulated word, which means that I can't have a verbal train of thought while I'm doing it. Like it just disrupts that. You know, if I'm thinking a sentence, then I can't count. I think that's what it does. And when I'm in a situation where I wouldn't normally think sentences, but sort of the disturbances are more subtle, I guess, then the counting stops being useful.
Oh, yeah,
I think that's sort of my experience with counting.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. So you find that you can't think whilst you're counting.
Well, like there's thought, but it's not like I think there's different levels of sort of destructive thought, right? There's sort of thought of like I'm actually having a conversation with myself in my head. That's sort of the grossest one. Yeah. And that one, I think I can stop it by counting in meditation. That's why I often like to use my because I'm very busy. Using counting just to disrupt that. Yeah. But there's lots of different levels of thought, I think. Images, feelings, plans, more like intention.
There is, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so that's not about sort of drowning out the thought, because the numbers can be that one.
Like maybe it is, you know.
Right.
The first 5 minutes of a sit comes from something busy.
Yeah.
Like it is. If I feel it's helpful, then I drop it. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if it's pointing in the right direction, yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think there's more to the counting than that, but I think that's
why I find it interesting to hear what you say.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Simon. Good stuff. So there's another hand that went up.
Yes, I was going to say, I was thinking like maybe the count and multiples of the 10 could be very good for like the thought patterns, the automatic thought patterns that we normally have when we're not counting, but you know, we could be looking at our colleague but thinking about something else. It's very sort of, it's a good chance to look at that in a bit more detail.
To look at
that in a bit more detail, you know. So I think we're doing that all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And when I think meditate, the counting helps me, you know, sort of, check, am I doing that again? Or and I think when we dropped the counting earlier, state of the body sensation, that was really deeply relaxing.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Good, great. Thanks, Rahini.
I found
I
found counting for reducing it from 10 to 4 made it a lot more achievable. So I'm no longer thinking of like, you know, keeping up with.
Yeah. Am I going to get there? And
it's good to know that I'm not the only one who cannot be.
Yeah.
So that was allowed me to actually then, like you said, put it in the background. For the first time, I felt like my breathing was in the foreground.
That's great.
The other layer to it now, giving the breathing more meaning was also very helpful.
Good.
I think those combination things was very helpful.
Yeah, great. Really good to hear. What's your name? Sorry.
Kaiser.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Kaiser. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, well, we've come towards the end. I just want to say a little bit just about the gratitude diary. So it's quite an enjoyable thing to do. It's not very onerous, and it doesn't take a long time actually. But I just really encourage you to give it a go and just notice over time if it has a sort of subtle effect on this kind of does it bring us closer to what our human life is really about? That's what we're trying to see. And it might be that when you stop to write things down, you're writing things down like, I don't know, fresh air and the fact that I've got water in the taps, and that's all fine too. That actually has really been given to us, hasn't it? Actually, all of those conditions amount to, in a way, this moment. If we didn't have running water, how many of us would have got here tonight? Do you see what I mean? So it's just tuning into the nature of life, that it's actually more precarious, and we're given more, we're receiving more than we usually realize. We just take it all for granted. Yeah. So it's just running against that tendency, and we'll just notice over the week, does that actually wake me up, as to the true value of life, so that I'm not just, running towards threat and pleasure, or that will happen, won't it? But I'm not completely overrun with that. Yeah. So yeah, if you, it can be good to have a nice little book to do this in, a book that you actually like, and you can just kind of write them down at the end of the day. It just gives you something tangible, doesn't it? That's what I'm going to do. So just be having a think about that. Have you got a little book that you could, and if you're not on the challenge, you could still try this out and see. Yeah, and just go through and see what it is that comes up. Don't need to make a big thing about it, but just try and do it, and we'll see over time. We'll get a chance to tune back in next week about how you got on with that. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, let's we've come to the end, so let's leave it there. Thanks all for coming, and have a very good week.
Anyone's got a yellow or a red blanket? Send to me.